Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about misconceptions about Libra. Now, as many of you may know, Libra is a sign associated with tact, diplomacy, refinement, tranquility, peace. They can make very good mediators. They're about compromise, negotiation. They don't always like to make waves, but they do abhor injustice and will fight for those beliefs connected with that when necessary, at least on average for a Libra personality. Now, the thing about Libra is often associated with being indecisive and ambivalent because they generally don't like to take sides in a situation, especially like, for example, if there's two mutual, they have a mutual friends that are quarreling and bickering. Now, this is what I want to talk about as far as the misconceptions of this sign may go. Now, granted, on average, Libra expresses these attributes stronger than any of the other signs of the zodiac, but you have to remember too that a natal chart is very intricate. It's a lot of nuances, and there's going to be modifying influences. Now, if we look at this sign, one thing to look at, if somebody was to have, say their sun or ascendant was in Libra, and they had Libra on the first house cusp in these cases. Now, Aries would be on the 7th house in terms of the solar or natal chart. Now, with Aries on the 7th, this person can show a little more aggression and more assertiveness, being a little more combative in 7th house matters. This could be in regards to relationships, to legal matters, because this sign, as I stated before, can abhor injustice and will fight for those beliefs when it comes right down to it, and will be less tactful and diplomatic in that area. So that's one example where you're not always going to see that tranquility and that peace that is so synonymous with this sign. So another example could be an obvious one, is that most people are going to have a different, they'll have their sun, moon, and ascendant in different signs. So if somebody has a sun, moon, or ascendant in Libra, the other two signs are going to be probably in a different sign. So you have to use that in order to modify the general Libra description for that person. Now, if somebody, for example, was to say have a sun in Libra, but their rising sign, say, was like an Aries or Scorpio, both where Mars ruled, well, you might see a person that their disposition might be a little bit more aggressive than the typical Libra, and you might see a nature that could be a little bit more quarrelsome. So, and another thing too is also if the person has Mars conjunct the ascendant, say they have Mars in Aries or Scorpio, if they have, let's say, even Mars in the 7th house, could be an example where this person is going to be a little bit more disputatious in terms of their relationships, and the compromise might not come as strongly as far as a typical Libra would go. So Mars conjunct the sun, moon, or ascendant, Mars in the 1st house. These are examples where you might see that more disputatious Libra, and a little bit the relationships, or it might be a little bit more contentious because of this. You might see a more fearless type of Libra personality as far as these examples go. Now, another thing too is that another misconception I think about Libra is like saying, well, all Libras are going to all be about partnership-oriented people. Now, here's the thing. I think one thing to look at as far as that goes is if somebody in their natal chart has a preponderance or majority of planets on the left side of their chart, and that would be the 10th, 11th, 12th, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd houses. This would show a person that would be more about doing things more independently, not really be as concerned about having, say, doing things with other people all the time. It doesn't mean this person would necessarily never do things with others or have a complete aversion to this, but there might be more of an inclination to be more self-reliant and independent than the typical Libra personality. So, and if we look at this sign, another thing too is that, as I was stating before about the ambivalence and the indecision that could be associated with this sign, well, another thing to look at as far as that goes, as far as a modifying influence, well, let's say the person has a strong preponderance of planets and maybe or the ascendant MC in fixed signs. Now, this will definitely make this person more, I guess you could say, I use the word immutable, and also have more fixity and purpose, having maybe stronger direction and not quite as ambivalent, because this person would be very more set, more resolute, more rigid as far as just over things in general, and would be able to make the decisions probably a little bit quicker than the average Libra and be more decisive as far as that goes. So, and if even if the person just had an ascendant in a fixed sign, and say their sun was in Libra, this would definitely make a big difference as well. Say they had their rising sign in Taurus, their sun or moon in Libra, but Taurus ascendant will strongly modify that influence, I think, very, very immensely, because Taurus is obviously a sign that can be very intractable, and generally once their mind is made up, it very seldom changes, and I should know something about that, having Taurus rising. So, and another thing to look at too is if the person, let's say, most of you know there's a thing called a decadent or decan, and it what it does is it modifies the person's sun, moon, or ascendant if it's in a different sign. So the thing about it is, let's say that Libra, a person's sun, moon, or ascendant in Libra, had the Aquarius decan, and that would fall in the second, you could say that second part of Libra in terms of the degrees. Somebody, a Libra with an Aquarius decan, would have their sun, moon, or ascendant in Libra, and it would be between 10 degrees Libra and 19 degrees 59 minutes of arc of Libra. And somebody with that would have some Aquarius, a little nuance of Aquarius in their personality, and Aquarius being a fixed sign will add a little bit more rigidity to the generally more pliable, compromising Libra. So that really is something else to look at as well when you're delineating a chart for somebody that has the sun, moon, or ascendant in the sign Libra. And obviously a stellium in another sign will have a modifying influence as well. So those are some things to look at in terms of having perhaps some misconceptions or a misperception or two regarding the zodiac sign Libra. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for misconceptions about the zodiac sign Libra. And stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my series on duplicated zodiac signs in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, Never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.